So this we're going to talk about the how, when, and where. So there's all kinds of interviews that could potentially happen. We often do on-campus interviews, and this is technically a little bit more in a non-COVID world. In the COVID world, obviously, we're trying to limit the number of people on campus, and so not a lot of colleges are doing those. But when this is all over, a lot of colleges will be starting up those on-campus interviews. So these are typically led by a current student. So that's something to think about as well, is sometimes the person who's interviewing you isn't necessarily your admissions counselor, but it's one of our student interns or student workers. And that's fine too. They've been trained and we trust them to interview you and to assess you just as we would. And these are people that we trust to do this kind of work. We wouldn't allow them to interview you if we didn't believe in their skill sets. And sometimes I think it's better to interview with a student because that gives you the opportunity to ask a student what it's like to be what their experience is like to be on campus. Not every admissions counselor has gone to the school they worked for. I didn't go to Reed. I went to a different school in Portland. So I can't really tell you what it's like to be a student to the degree that maybe a current student could. These are usually 30-minute long interviews. For the seniors, they happen in the summer and the winter. And then for the juniors, towards the end of the winter and then spring, opportunities will open. So we try to reserve the summer all the way through winter. For the current seniors, this is during their application season. And so this is, we wanna make sure there's enough opportunities for them. But then we do open it up for juniors during your second semester. Oftentimes we do off-campus interviews. So again, this is during non-COVID times. All of us admissions counselors travel a lot during our year, and we go to the different schools and college fairs in your area. So for example, I'm the international admissions counselor. So I cover basically everything that's not the US. But before I did this, I was a domestic admissions counselor and I covered Southern California. Starbucks in San Diego, and I'll email out all of our prospective students in San Diego like a week or two in advance and say, hey, I'll be in your area at this Starbucks or this coffee shop or this park or wherever I decided to meet with students. And here's the link for you to sign up. And then you can pre-sign up for 30-minute interview slots. And we literally just I might do 8 interviews in a row where we meet with you at your area, so you don't have to travel all the way to Reed. We'll come to you. So when you're walking into that coffee shop or park or whatever, we'll usually have like a sign that says Reed College, or you can look for someone who's usually dressed nicely and will always be wearing a name tag. And that's probably going to be the person that you wanna sit down with. Sometimes you can ask the people at the counter, like, is there someone doing Reed College interviews? We usually check ahead of time with the coffee shop that it's okay to do this, so they know if a student comes up to them. Sometimes we'll do interviews in the lobby of a hotel. So if I'm in Beverly Hills, I might just do interviews in the hotel lobby of the hotel that I'm staying at. So you might check with the hotel front desk person if you can't visibly see the person easily. And they'll direct you. Oftentimes we'll even buy you coffee. That's not a trick or anything. If you want coffee, that's fine. It's not coming out of our pockets. The school is paying for that coffee. So if we offer you to buy a coffee, don't feel guilty or feel like it's a trick. Where if you want coffee, we'll buy you one. If you don't, or if you want like a tea or water or something, feel comfortable saying that. And if you don't, feel free to politely turn it down. And again, these are also 30-minute sessions. And then we're doing a lot of virtual opportunities right now. So these are usually over Zoom. This could be any number of people that interview you. So it could be a current student, it could be your admissions counselor, or it could be an alumni. Sometimes we have our alumni help us with interviews. Again, these are great folks to chat with because they've attended Reed and they know what that experience is like. These are also people that we've trained. These are people that we've trust to assess you in the application process. Um, and to be able to have that conversation with you. Um, as a reminder, if you have questions as we're going along, don't forget to put those in the chat box. What will the interview look like? So this is going to be pretty casual and informal. This is not a job interview. So I hope you don't come into this over stressing. I've had students who have come in and sat down just dripping in sweat because they're so nervous. And I promise you, we are all pretty friendly people, and we're just really interested in getting to know you. We would not be doing this job if we didn't love this kind of work and if we didn't have this interest in getting to know you. And that's the reason that all of us admissions counselors are doing this kind of work. These are long hours and we don't get paid very much. And so we do this because we love it. And we do this because we love talking to students. We love to hear the things that you're interested in and you're passionate about. So, and I'd like to think most of us are fairly friendly folks. Oh, that's a good tongue twister. Friendly, fairly friendly folks. So hopefully, you know, don't overstress yourself. This is a much more casual and informal. You know, you don't necessarily have to wear professional clothing. It doesn't hurt, but you know, we recognize you're 16, 17 years old. Like I said, this isn't a job interview. If you show up in like jeans and just like a nice shirt or something like that, that's totally fine as well. You know, we want you to be you, right? Don't feel like you have to put on a persona or be someone you're not in these interviews. And oftentimes these interviews really just start with small talk. Um, you know, what is it that you like to do? Who, tell me about yourself. Oh, have you watched this TV show? Or I recently just read this book, or I was just watching this movie. These are all great conversation starters. We like to start off with just small conversation. We do that on purpose to sort of help you get relaxed and comfortable. And then we might go into some more in-depth questions. So this slide has some great examples of some of the questions that we might ask you. What are some of the toughest classes you've taken and how have you handled it? Where do you like to sit in the classroom and why? Who's your favorite teacher? And why did they make an impression? How do you like to spend your free time? What is it about Reed or whichever college you're interviewing with that specifically interests you? And that's a question you should definitely be prepared to answer, right? Why this college? So make sure you take some time to do some research. You know what else is a really good form of research that I think doesn't maybe get as much as attention is look at the college's social media accounts, right? If there's an Instagram or a Twitter or a Facebook or a TikTok account, those are great ways to do some research because this is how you can be kept up with what's current and what's going on. Would you like to get involved around campus? Again, this goes back to that community building. We want to know, who will you be on our campus? And that's what that question is really trying to get at. Is there anything that you'd like us to tell? Is there anything that you'd like to tell us that won't show up in your application? Again, that's that what we're trying to do is fill in those gaps. Excuse me. We're trying to fill in those gaps. One more. Excuse me. Um, we're trying to fill in those gaps of the information that's missing from your application through this interview process. And so these are just some sample questions. One of my favorite questions to ask is, if I went to your high school and I sat in your cafeteria with the three of your closest friends and asked them to tell me what three words describe you, what would your friends say? And this isn't asking you what you think you would say. I'm not asking you for your opinion on your top, three adjectives. I want to know what your friends would say about you because again, that just gives us a really good idea about who you are in the context of the day-to-day life at school. What will an interview look like? Continue. So after the interview, so like I said, these interviews are typically 30 minutes. We might be taking notes. Don't let that stress you out as well. So oftentimes I have my laptop open and I'll just be typing notes. Sometimes I might use a notebook and a pen and paper. Again, don't let that stress you out. We're not like trying to take down every single word you're saying. If any of you are familiar with the Harry Potter movies, I'm a big, big fan. And I often think about in the Goblet of Fire, in that scene with Rita Skeeter and Harry Potter in the closet where that pen was taking notes while they were interviewing and talking, and how it was like adding these like like really dramatic interpretations of the things that Harry was saying. That's not what happens. I promise you. We are really just writing down some of the things that you're saying because oftentimes, like just today alone, I've interviewed 4 students. I have a terrible memory, and I'm not going to remember what's. I'm not going to remember everything that that student said when I get to that next interview. And I want to make sure that I'm doing you the due diligence of writing down everything that you told me because it's the fact that you told me means it's important to you. And so I want to make sure that I'm capturing that and giving you that respect. And so that's why I'm typing or taking notes is because I want to make sure um, we capture everything, we don't miss anything that you've told us. So don't let that stress you out. It really is just to make sure we don't miss anything. In any given cycle, I will have interviewed over 100 students alone, and that's just me. And there's 10 of us admissions counselors, so that's a lot of interviews that we do, and that doesn't even include all the students that do interviews for us or all the alumni that do interviews for us. So I mean, we're talking thousands of interviews a year, and so we need to be able to look at those notes when we go back and review your application. But after the interview, we often, will give you a business card and say, thank you for coming. We might give you a brochure. Feel free to take that if you'd like. If you already have enough material. Um, and then I always recommend, it never hurts to just send a follow-up note, whether it's an email or we love to get letters. I've gotten a couple of like greeting cards that have just said, thank you for the interview. And I've hung them up on my cork board in my office. So these are just, just steps that aren't going to hurt you to do and to solidify that demonstrated interest piece.